everyone. In this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about how environmental law currently operates, why we need rights in nature, how rights in nature changes things on a practical level. And I'm also going to talk about our proposal for a European Citizens Initiative. Was my mic on? European Citizens Initiative, and a little bit about the draft directive and what's in there. But before we do that, I'd like to do a little exercise. So, I'd like to bring you all present, and if you just sit, make contact with the chair, make contact with the floor, and just exhale completely. And when there's no more air left and you feel the spontaneous urge to breathe again, just allow your body to receive a breath. And as you're receiving that breath, just feel the life force carried in the air as it interacts with the molecules of the body. And just feel this air become you. And then as you exhale, and just feel that air leaving the body, together with all the different molecules from your body, and enter the atmosphere. Just become aware of, when does this air stop being me? When do I stop being the air? And just get the sense of that interconnectedness. And bring your attention to your chest, to the heart. And feeling the interconnection with all of the other beings in this room who are sharing the same air, the air that we've just breathed our own molecules into. And just become aware of how we all share the same breath. And then extending this sense of interconnection to all beings, all of life. And just really feeling that interconnectedness. We're all one planet, sharing the same destiny. And when you're ready, just bring your attention back into the room. There are certain universal laws that govern all of life. When we align with these laws, we create a cycle of peace, prosperity, and harmony for all of life. When we don't align with these laws, we create a spiral of destruction, as we can see happening all around us today. All societies that have ignored this truth have perished. There was a time when law used to facilitate human values. Today, law facilitates economics. The problem is that it's facilitating an economic paradigm that's based on a perpetual growth model that's coupled to the destruction of the planet. Now, there's one key concept that underpins our current economic system and all of the systems that derive from this. And this is the utility value of nature. Valuing nature solely for its usefulness to human beings. However, nature is infinitely valuable. No nature and we're all dead. Change utility value, and we change everything. The EU has made a commitment to the absolute decoupling of economic growth from environmental destruction. In order to achieve this, we need laws that recognize the intrinsic value of nature. And rights of nature is a tool to achieve this. Utility value translates in law as nature being property. Now this leads to some really unfortunate side effects. a piecemeal system of protection. So we're starting with the premise that nature is unprotected. So environmental law then comes in to carve out protections. However, this way of doing things has some serious drawbacks. Take, for example, biodiversity. If we look at the EC Habitats and Species Directive, this creates specific protections for endangered species. The species are listed in an annex at the back, and it takes years to update an annex, years of scientific research. If we look at the facts, Thomas just mentioned a few facts. Of the extinction rate of species on the planet, according to the WWF's Living Planet report, we've already extinguished 50% of all biodiversity in the last 50 years alone. We're losing something like 1,000 to 10,000 times the backdrop rate of extinction. This means we're literally losing species every day. Do we have time to do the scientific studies to update an annex? By the time we update an annex, it's already too late. And also, if we look at the interconnected web of life, who's to say which species is a VIP? We may lose certain species that are seemingly insignificant, but who's to know what the ramifications are for the ecosystem as a whole? Another serious side effect of this system is that we're stuck in the planning courts. Most environmental issues are seen to be exclusively planning issues, so the only conversation that can happen in court is whether the correct planning procedure has been followed. Now, for a citizen who is trying to bring a case in the public interest, this makes it incredibly difficult. They've got to find technical reasons, technical arguments related to the planning process in order to succeed. Now, even if they were successful and they found these technical arguments, the very best that can happen in that system of law is that it goes back to the planners. And then usually you get a revised planning submission, they've tweaked it a bit, and the development goes ahead. Communities run out of steam, or they're told that they don't have standing because their property rights haven't been affected. So clearly this approach is a little bit too narrow. It's too narrow to deal with the broad ramifications that ensue when we're dealing with interconnected living systems. The only other avenue that's available to us under the current system is after the fact litigation. So after a disaster has happened, we can go to court. And the very best thing that can happen there is that we might get some financial compensation if we've lost money as a result. However, because the law doesn't recognize a relationship between us and nature, there's no duty of care. There are no obligations towards nature. And so there's no obligation to restore the harm caused to nature. And there are also problems with enforcement, there's problems with piercing the corporate veil, there's a lack of flexibility in sanctions, and so on. So environmental law in its current form clearly can no longer meet the challenges that we're facing today. And this is because we're using a system based on the utility value of nature. A system that was originally designed to facilitate the exploitation of nature. We're using that very same system to try and protect it. Is it any wonder that we're getting nowhere? We need systemic transformation. And this is where rights of nature comes in. So rights of nature creates the systemic change by reversing the paradigm. It tackles the problem at the root. Utility value. We transform utility value to intrinsic value by recognizing the intrinsic value of nature. Nature as a living being. nature a subject of the law, creates a relationship, recognises that we have a duty of care. Instead of reactively legislating to carve out protections for every single eventuality, we start out with the premise that all of life is protected, and we carve out the level of human activity that is acceptable to maintain the dynamic balance in nature. The highest protection that our law gives us is in the form of rights. Yet this protection is only currently given to two types of entity. One is human beings, and the other are entities created by human beings, like corporations. Rights are a very powerful tool for addressing power imbalances. There was a time, not very long ago, when women and children were also considered to be property under the law. Can you think of rape as property damage? We've given ourselves human rights. But human rights don't come in a vacuum. How can we have a right to life if that which gives us life, that which our very life depends on, doesn't have a corresponding right to life? And it's also a right to life. Not a right to human life, a right to life. And life is all of nature. So how can we bring this change about? Well, in the EU, we're very fortunate because we have participatory democracy. Citizens can propose laws. We have this tool called the ECI, the European Citizens Initiative. So we're bringing a European Citizens Initiative to ask the Commission to make a legislative proposal to recognise the rights of nature. With the ECI, 7 citizens from 7 member states can propose a law, and provided that that is backed by at least 1 million statements of support from citizens throughout the EU, then the Commission has to consider that proposal. If the EU adopts a directive, this will immediately become effective in all of the member states. So, if we were to succeed in this, it would be a very efficient way of bringing rights of nature onto the world stage. We formally plan to launch this signature campaign in April 2016. In the intervening year, we plan to raise awareness through launching local, regional, and national campaigns. Now in Europe, there is also participatory democracy at the local level, the regional level, and also the national level in at least 15 member states. So we want to run these initiatives and really get people thinking about the rights of nature and thinking about changing the paradigm. We currently have a team of about 70 people in 15 different countries, and we're looking for more people. So if you know anybody in Europe who would like to come on board, help us take this further. You have any useful contacts anywhere, come and see me. So I'm going to say a few words about the draft directive. We've drafted a proposal, and you should have a copy of this. You will have a copy of it when Thomas sends it to you. It would be good if you did have a copy of it. I would love to send it to you. In this draft proposal, it sets out the whole proposal in detail. And I'll run through basically, briefly, what the main points are. So the rights that we're looking at and proposing are collective rights. They're briefly the right to life and the right to existence, the right to maintain the integrity of nature's natural cycles, its vital processes, its capacity for regeneration, the right to habitat, the right to naturally evolve and to preserve the diversity of life, the right to preservation of the functionality of the water cycle, and the right to timely and effective restoration. Additionally, in the directive, we also provide for a legal duty of care, legal personality, and there's certain procedural rights about standing, about representation, enforcement. It also brings in the human right to a healthy environment, but within a rights of nature context. That rights of nature is a necessary prerequisite for humans to have any sort of a healthy environment. We also provide for the stripping of the rights and privileges of corporations that subordinate the rights of physical people and nature. There's provisions for an ombudsman, amicus curiae, training of all of the judiciary in environmental matters, special courts and tribunals, problem-solving approach, restorative justice, wide range of enforcement powers like piercing the corporate veil, joint shareholder and director liability, restoration. We also provide for the reviewing of all the national laws to integrate in all policy areas, for ecological governance, including ecological impact tracing, action plans, landscape classification, and restoration obligations. And we would love you to read all of this and to come back to us. So, to conclude, there are certain universal laws that govern all of life. When our laws are aligned with this, we create a cycle of prosperity, peace, and happiness for all of life. And when our laws are not aligned with this, we create a spiral of destruction. All societies that have ignored this have perished. We have a choice. I'm going to leave you with a short 1-minute video, which drives the message home.
Some call me nature. Others call me Mother Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years. 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter. Or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me. One way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?